And that's where I'm at this moment, and that was my question. I'm going to give you just a short example. There's a restaurant here in Sedona that I love. I went there last night. I've come here alone. I had my beautiful dinner, and they have these delicious truffles that are dark chocolate chili. They don't have them anymore, and I was really wanting one of those. And in my life, I always push to get what I want. The waiter said, no, we don't have those anymore. And I was clear that there were some. So I take that next step instead of just resigning to it and go up to the girl at the front desk when I was leaving and say, there's these delicious truffles and I love them and I really was looking forward to having one. Are there any? And I was already told no, but I was asking again. She goes, well, sometimes we have them if we have an event and there could be some left over, let me check. She came back and she said, we have lots of them in the refrigerator. So sometimes this is where I have the conflict, is when I push a little. If I would have just went with I wasn't meant to have a truffle, there is no truffles.
But let's find through those life experiences, because words do not teach. Through those life experiences, you're able to define the difference between you pushing it and you feeling the inspiration. In other words, after the fact, you could say, that larger part of me knew they were there. That larger part of me would not take no for an answer when it was unnecessary. That larger part of me knew what I wanted and knew what the path of least resistance was. In other words, the path of least resistance isn't sitting in silence. The path of least resistance is the path of least resistance. We'll say this in very clear terms. The path of least resistance is the inspired path. So really what we're talking about here is figuring out for yourself when it's an inspired path and when you're just pushing. When you're pushing. And you have to figure that out for yourself through experiences like that. So let's take this time to do that. Since this just happened, let's take this time to do this, where you find more words to define your sort of determination. What's determination? Isn't determination a sort of single-mindedness? Mm-hmm. So the question is, are you willing things into being? Are you willing things into being with your determination? Or are you finding alignment with broader perspective, who knows where you are in relationship to everything you want, who will inspire you to the path of least resistance to get it? You feel the difference of that? So didn't it feel sort of kind of like that? In other words, you didn't stomp up there. You weren't angry. You weren't throwing a fit. You didn't ask for your money back because they didn't have it. That's what Esther was doing last night. Not completely. Mm-hmm. You stayed in alignment. Yes?
And yes.
So we're really asking you, we want you, because this is the question that you've asked. The question that you are asking is, what is the question that you're asking? the question that you're asking is when is action towards something that I'm wanting appropriate, and when do I wait for inspiration? And we say they don't have to be one or the other. Wait for the inspiration to act. And that is what happened.
And this is where the question is now. In relationship, I was in relationship where I went after what I wanted. He happened to be on that high-flying disc in the moment and could not sustain it. And now I feel a little reluctant when I come up to somebody.
Don't come up to someone when you feel reluctant. Come up to someone when you feel inspired.
Okay.
Come up to someone when you feel inspired. And then savor the outcome, no matter what it is. Because it's clarity. It's clarification. So, what difference does it make if you have an experience and it doesn't manifest in that moment? If you say, I'm walking away with greater clarity, haven't you discovered part of the path of least resistance?
I think the part of me who wants to get it right is coming into
that. That's the part of you we're trying to get you to give up.
I know. And I'm really willing.
Because you can't not get it right. And if you all would stop wrestling with timing of things, take the urgency out of it, stop using your time-space reality against yourself to say things like, by now I should have accomplished this and this and this and this and this, and instead see it as this expansive environment that is affording you the opportunity to have all of these wonderful experiences. Bring it back around again.
Okay, here's the example. I meet somebody, I'm happy, I'm me, I'm doing that, and they walk away. And I'm like, and I think that, just like you, why did I manifest this, Because was I supposed to follow him now? Am I supposed to just go back and wait if it's really meant to be? This is going to happen. Do I push? Do I follow? Do I go? That's the part.
So through life experience, you begin to figure it out. And if you've had the experience of actually getting a hard-to-find truffle, then you can reactivate those feelings within you and remind yourself what that felt like. In other words, remembering something that was wonderful is one way. Another way is by accepting once and for all that the laws of the universe insist that you can be or do or have anything that you desire. And that as you're looking at that condition to satisfy it, that while that may not be the condition that will satisfy it, there is for sure a condition that will satisfy it. So then you just come back and be more general and more general and more general by saying to yourself, why is it that I want this thing? Because it's not that precise thing that you're wanting. It's the essence of that thing that you're wanting. It's something about that reminded you of something that you want. There was a glimpse of something that you wanted there that activated. But it doesn't mean that everything that is satisfies everything that is there. It's just a piece that's active. This is the thing that we would so like you to feel. And as you get this, you're going to have fun in the unfolding of all of this. Especially when you're looking for a relationship, everything is a relationship with something. But especially when you're looking for a relationship, that relationship is multifaceted. There are so many pieces to it. There are so many vibrational aspects to it. And sometimes, in fact, most of you are sort of trained to using your physical senses to diagnose and identify those aspects that you're looking for. And that can kind of set you off sometimes on wild goose chases, because you'll see something that you think you want, but when you actually get to know it, it doesn't satisfy all of the intentions that you hold. So if you could accept from us these powerful, profound, absolute principles, that everything that you've put into your vortex still stands, and that the source within you knows what all of those components are. And that as you, and so there are components about many things, but let's just isolate for a moment the components that have been established relative to the subject of relationships. Mm-hmm. So all of these components relative to what delicious relationships mean to you have already been identified through the trial and error. There is no error, but the experiences that you've had. So you've identified it, and it is there. So now you're sort of moving through life experience, wanting the universe and law of attraction to match you up with what you have compiled there, what you have lovingly and incrementally prepared. So the first thing that is necessary is a level of trust coming from you that you've put it there, that it exists, and that the signal is perceivable. And now you've got to decide that you want to be a perceiver of that signal. The first thing we would do is start with something easier than this thing that you've already decided is hard. Something like a truffle. We're not kidding you about that. In other words, those things where you want something and you feel the inspiration and you follow through and the result is the way you want it to be, those are the things. And whether it's the relationship with a person or whether it's the relationship with the truffle that you were looking forward to, it's still the same thing. It's still the same laws. It's still the same inspiration. You just have to kind of sort it out and feel your way to it. So if you set aside this desire for a relationship for just a little while and you start consciously acknowledging that you are more and more getting off on the right foot every day and following the inspiration that comes, it is our promise to you that the inspiration that you will come to trust, and this is the key here, the inspiration that you come to trust, because you're testing it on things that aren't risky. You're testing it on things that are meaningful, but not life and death from your perspective. Until you come to trust that you can follow your heart, you can follow your gut, you can follow your impulse. And as you do, you're just going to pick up more information along that trail and have more fun in the picking up of that information along that trail. There are no wrong turns. What makes you all so impatient about making a beeline to what you think you want when it's the path that you have always wanted? An aligned path and a never-ending unfolding of destination is what you expected in this life experience, you see. And what you really want to say to almost every relationship that you come to is, oh, I probably should have waited longer, because the more I get to know you, the more I realize there are so many pieces of you that aren't in my vortex. We're just kidding about that. Oh, because you can extract from anyone what you are wanting. You really could. You really could. We'll talk much more about this. We have many more hours before us, but you got the essence of all of this. This is a really good time for a segment of refreshment.
Thank you.